But anyhow, I met George French at Daytona, just like we meet here. And he said, I'm working for American Honda Motor Company. And I said, yeah. He says, I understand you're going to go into the retail motorcycle business. I said, I might as well. I don't have a job. And I left the job that I had with Chevrolet Cadillac dealer in Racine, Wisconsin, as a used car manager. And I said, you know, I've been involved in racing, and a lot of these guys come around and want me to fix their motorcycle. And so I figure I might as well do that. I'd be doing something that I like, even though I didn't make any money in it. So I said, I am going to go into business, but not until about June or so. And in the meantime, I'd come down to Daytona. And he said, what are you going to do? I'm going to sell motorcycles and fix them too. And he says, how'd you like to sell Hondas? I said, what the hell's a Honda? Well, that's a Japanese motorcycle, real good motorcycle. I said, yeah, I've heard that story before. And I said, I've seen motorcycles come and go. And he said, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. He says, I'll send you a couple motorcycles, and you don't have to pay me for them until you sell them. I said, well, I can do that all right. So at the time I had, well, I knew all the people because I'd raced for several years. And I wound up as a dealer for BSA, Triumph, and BMW, because I knew all those people. And they said, well, we'd like to have you handle our bikes. And then George said, well, I'll send you a couple Hondas, and you can be a Honda dealer too. And I said, well, if it's free, I'm for things that are free. So by golly, they sent me a couple bikes. Well, I had Triumph on the show floor, I had BSA on the show floor, and I learned you put pans under them. And I put the Honda on the show floor. That was a model you may not have heard of. It was a CE71. CE71. It was a 250 vertical twin dry sump. And so George sent them to me. I might as well put it on the floor. But I didn't need a pan to put under that one. So that was pretty good. And of course I belonged to the Racine Motorcycle Club, which met at the Harley-Davidson dealer in the basement every so often. I don't remember the date, once a week or something like that. And so somebody said to me, he says, what about this Honda motorcycle? I said, well, at least it's cheaper than the rest of them. And he came over and tried one out. He says, I think I'll buy this. I said, that'd be a good idea, I'd like that. So, I don't remember what I sold it for, it was less than anything else. So, he bought the bike, and then at the club meeting they said, well, if you're going to ride a 250, you're going to have trouble keeping up with us on the weekly rides we take on Sunday. And so listen, we'll tell you where we're going to stop for lunch. And when you catch up, you can join us for lunch, unless we've already left. Yeah. And this guy wasn't a racer or anything, but he winds up at the eating place first. And the rest of the Harley 45s and so forth catch up with him later. And so that gave kind of a different view of 250cc motorcycles as far as an American rider goes. Hell, you couldn't sell at 500, you know. It's too small. And of course, the Harley, the smallest one they made was a 45, but most of the guys rode a 74. But anyhow, this fellow not only kept up, but he was first. And so they took a little bit different view of my Honda at that time. First thing you know, I sold all 3 of them. Then the next thing you know, they sent me some more. And I thought, this is a pretty good motorcycle. And besides, it has the chance, the possibility of becoming big in the United States. So maybe, well, the building that I rented had a basement in it with a ramp that went down into it because it was an old machine shop and they kept the stamping machines down in the basement. Well, I had nothing in the basement. The stuff that I had was on the main floor. So I talked to George on the telephone and I said, you know what? I think this could be big in this country. But if it's going to be big in this country, you got to be able to follow up with parts. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'll rent you out the base. I'll take the basement, and you send me parts, and I'll be a parts distributor for the western, everything east of the Mississippi. And he said, that's a pretty good idea. And he called me back a few days later and says, look, they'd like to meet you out here. We'll pay for your trip. We'd like to have you come to California and talk about this idea of yours. And I said, well, motorcycle business is dead after the 4th of July, at least in Wisconsin. So I can come out sometime in September or October. And he said, that would be good. So I go out there, and they were on Pico Boulevard in Los Angeles. So I show up at the place, and there's a man by the name of Mr. Kawashima, K. Kawashima. And he had been sent over by Mr. Honda to establish American Honda Motor Company. Now, if you understand, American Honda Motor Company was, of course, the Japanese representative here in the United States, and I found out that if your eyes are round, you couldn't be a director. The directors came from Japan. And so they ran the place. The sales director didn't know a heck of a lot about sales, and the parts director didn't know a heck of a lot about parts. But they were in charge. And so they took me into the top office, and Mr. Kawashima said, we've thought about your idea of setting up a parts warehouse, but Honda will be in charge. But if you'd like, you can go to work for Honda. And I said, well, that's a thought, because I wasn't too excited about the retail business anyhow. So I said, yeah, I'd be interested in that. And they spouted out a number, and that number a month wasn't as much as I made for being a used car manager. But I believed in motorcycles, and I always have. And I thought, well, yeah, I'll give this a try. If it don't work, I'm still out of a job. But if it works, at least I'll be on the ground floor, and I'll think about Honda and say, well, this is why they failed, or this is why they succeeded. And I said, at least I'm on the ground floor and I'll learn something. I don't make any money anyhow. So